Well, that was ugly. As the Padres fall this afternoon, they are unable to finish off the sweep of the Marlins and they relinquish a 5-run lead. Kind of crazy how the tables turned in 24 hours. It was the Padres overcoming that huge deficit on Tuesday, only to give up a 6-1 lead today down at Petco. It seemed kind of like a formality, didn't it? They were going to win that game this afternoon. They were going to sweep the Marlins and set themselves up potentially for, a 5-1 or better homestand. And now, 2-1 to start the 6-game homestand, but giving something back. We talked about the schedule coming up, and it's a challenging one once you get into June. Limited off days after tomorrow. And already you can tell they're taxed. We'll get into their bullpen and how that transpired here today, but really a wasted opportunity for the Padres. I mean, not a reason probably to kick and scream here tonight as they still take 2 out of 3. They win this series. But remember, they're not that far removed from that 6-game losing streak. So they, by and large, have not played great baseball here over the last couple of weeks. You thought they turned the corner. They had the 3 consecutive come from behind wins, multi-run come from behind wins, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then they jump out to the big lead. They trail. They take back the lead on Gavin Sheets. Like, this is the second time in the last week where Gavin Sheets has had massive moments and you lose the game. 2-run home run like that in the 7th inning to give you a lead, you got to preserve that. What he did the other day in Toronto, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, you need to win that game. So, yes, we're a third of the way through the season. Yes, the Padres have played well. Yes, they're 8 games over 500. But, it's about to get more challenging in June, and they're dealing with significant pitching injuries that have now impacted them with what's going on here with Michael King and Yu Darvish. I mean, don't tell me that didn't impact them here today with Kyle Hart making the start, not making out of a 5th inning. Again, there's a difference. In the short term, can you overcome it? Yes, I've argued you can. You don't have to have Michael King make 32 starts or Yu Darvish make 30 starts. Of course, Darvish isn't going to make 30 starts, but you felt the impact today with Kyle Hart, who pitched well for 4 innings and then ran into a brick wall in that 5th inning. And then David Morgan, the newcomer, allows that game-tying home run, and the Padres just never got going after they got going early. And from that 6-1 lead to a 10-8 loss, Padres fall in the finale to the Marlins. So here's the deal. Make your way in. We passed 8,500 subscribers yesterday. I wasn't sure if I was going to do this show or not, but I promised. If we got to 8,500, I would do it. So, of course, here I am. Promises made, promises kept. So thank you for your support of this channel. 8,500 of you have subscribed to this channel. Tens of thousands view this channel each and every month. And we've had maybe 2 million views since we launched the wrap-up show 4 years ago. So thank you for your support. I don't know how many people will be here live tonight, as it's been a few hours since they lost this game. And I understand that people are probably disappointed with the way it played out. And there's been other reaction, I'm sure, on the radio and on YouTube over the last 4 or 5 hours. And I'm sure some people will be here on replay as well. But if you are here and if you have not subscribed to the channel, I would appreciate it if you do it. If you are here, please smash the like button for me, if you wouldn't mind. You can follow me on X at John Schaefer. And thank you for your support of the channel with the super chats. It's going to be impossible for me to keep up with the chat tonight because I'm doing a solo show, so I can't read every comment that comes in and also do this show over the next hour or so. So if you want to make sure I see your comment, if you want to support the channel, if you want to make sure we get your comment on screen, if you want to control the direction of the conversation, if you have a question, click the $sign below the chat box. We'll get to all of your super chats here tonight. If you want to become a member, you get the custom emojis, you get the custom badges. You can click the join button down below. I think we've had 5, 6, 7, 8 people probably do it over the last few days. All right, so Padres fall 10-8. And where do you even start? I think you kind of start at the end and work your way back towards the beginning. And there's been a lot of criticism of the usage of the bullpen here today. This has not been a common criticism of Mike Shildt. It was more of a common criticism of Bob Melvin. And you look at where they were coming in, and I don't do the bullpen usage chart like Ben Fadden, but it is useful. And I think the overall synopsis is, how do you get yourself into a situation like that where Wandy Peralta is facing a right-handed batter with the game on the line in the 8th inning and Robert Suarez is up in your bullpen? You get yourself in that position because you've taxed your bullpen here recently. That's true. I think the bullpen has thrown something like 35 innings in the last 9 games. They've had some extra inning games in there. So the bullpen has been used heavily. And some of your high leverage relievers today were down. So that's a factual statement. If guys are down, they're down. They optioned Omar Cruz today, which took away some length that he could have provided potentially today as well. So it was a little bit of a perfect storm that put them in that spot. If this is game 3 of the NLDS or game 2 of the NLCS or game 4 of the World Series, I mean, this game plays out completely differently. Kyle Hart's nowhere near that game, nor are the Miami Marlins, but you get the point. Like, this is a regular season game that still needs to be secured. You're never in the business of punting on anything, especially with a lead. And they had multiple leads in this game, from 6-1 to then later 8-7, right? You're in the business of securing that win. And by and large, they've held late leads this year, although they didn't here today. So how do they get into that spot? I mean, a couple of things. Kyle Hart does not give you length. It's not as if he was horrific. It's not like he left after 2 2/3 innings, but he doesn't give you 5 innings. He was now out away from getting through 5. They gave him ample opportunity to get through 5, but he couldn't. Allowed a home run in the 5th inning, later allowed a double, I think another single or 2. And eventually they turned things over to David Morgan with the tying run at the plate. Well, that backfired because in that sequence, there was the home run to left center field that tied the score at 6. So now you're tied up. And then you look at the way that this transpires. Here's the other thing that, okay, the Morgan move backfires. Matsui allows a run. Was that on the wild pitch? Again, I was doing a show and watching, and it's been a few hours. So correct me if I'm wrong. I think that was on the wild pitch. And then Jason Adams just did not have it. No, Jason Adams threw the wild pitch immediately to make it 7-6. And that run was charged, I want to say, to Matsui. And someone correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm kind of reliving it here right now. And then Adam didn't have it, hit a batter, allowed a couple of hits. He's been unbelievable all year. But again, you look at some of these relievers, like Jason Adams this year has appeared in 27 games. He's not going to appear in 81 games. He's on pace to appear in 81 games. That's not sustainable for like an 8th inning guy that's high leverage, high leverage, high leverage. So his usage is going to come down at some point. I don't know how or when, but it's just going to come down. And then it was Wandy Peralta's opportunity. He was let down, by the way, by his defense. Manny Machado has not played well defensively by and large. He leads baseball with 10 errors. We spent so much time on the second baseman for the Marlins yesterday with the 3 errors in 4 innings. Manny had a game in Toronto earlier this month, within the last week or week and a half. He had 3 errors in an inning. So Peralta was given an opportunity, and for whatever reason, he was given a chance against a right-handed batter. He got like lefty-lefty to start the outing, which made complete sense. And then it was the 4th batter he faced. I mean, it wasn't even the 3-batter minimum that played a role there. But with 2 outs in the 8th inning, he couldn't get out of that spot. Couple of run score, and an 8-7 lead turns into eventually a 10-8 or 9-8 deficit. And you're left wondering, well, what on earth is Wandy Peralta doing out there trying to protect a 1-run lead? But again, I think the factors were Hart doesn't go 5 innings. Your bullpen's completely taxed. You made a move earlier today with Omar Cruz. Jason Adam didn't have it, and they didn't want to pitch Robert Suarez is what the excuse was after the game, even though Robert Suarez was warming. I get it. Are you really going to go to Suarez for a 4-out save when he's appeared in 4 of the last 5 games? Probably not in the regular season. It's pretty extreme to use a closer for 5 and 6. The adage is a couple of times over the course of a year, you're going to use them 3 consecutive days. A couple of times over the course of a year, you'll use a player 4 times in 5 games or 5 days. That's a closer, but beyond that is fairly extreme and less common, especially today. And today would have been a 5th appearance for Robert Suarez, I think, in the last 6 games for the Padres, which would have been a bit of a stretch. I do recognize that it is May, not August, and not September, and certainly it is in October, but it does feel like a squandered opportunity, and it felt a little bit like, if you watch this thing play out live, it felt like they were sleeping at the wheel, and I don't know if they were or not. Maybe some of this is on the front office for, again, putting your bullpen in a spot where you have multiple guys down and you're left with Wandy Peralta on the mound in that spot. Maybe some of this is on Mike Shildt for not managing the game more effectively. Maybe some of it's on Jason Adam or Kyle Hart or certainly Wandy Peralta as well. But, the whole way that it played out, and you've got Reynolds down and you have Estrada down, okay, understandable. And honestly, maybe it's more understandable if I never saw Robert Suarez get up and throw. But for him to be up in the 8th leads you to believe that, okay, he's not going to go a 4-out save when he's pitched 4 of the last 5 days. And they're ticketing him to pitch with a lead in the 9th inning. But as I always say, you got to get there with a lead. So sometimes the save is in the 8th inning. Let's say he came on there with 2 outs in the 8th inning and got out of that spot. What do you do in the 9th inning? Fair. Okay. That's understandable and fair. But had a fresh arm, Mark Cruz, and they sent him down. So they kind of were asking for a little bit of trouble, is what I would say here tonight. And, you know, play dumb games, win dumb prizes. I hate to say it that bluntly. This has not been who the Padres have been under Mike Shildt. This has not happened often. I have not been overly critical of their in-game decisions under Shildt over the last 2 seasons. I was more critical of Bob Melvin because I did feel like he was more asleep at the wheel in some of those circumstances. I was critical of Shildt last year in the postseason. Some of the decisions in that Dodgers series, like pitching to Shohei Ohtani in game 1, for example, comes to mind. There was another circumstance where they pitched to Ohtani later in that series as well that was costly when they didn't need to do it. It's more magnified, obviously, in the postseason. Typically, Padres Marlins on a Wednesday afternoon isn't magnified the way that it was here today. But this, to me, I'm not necessarily going to circle it. I get it. It's May. It's a long year. Nothing's been determined today based on a win or a loss. But I do recognize the point that I've tried to make repeatedly, that the 17-game gauntlet they have coming up is a real challenge for any team in Major League Baseball, including the Padres, and they might have to go through it without Michael King and potentially without Yu Darvish. And that's where these injuries in the rotation I've already added up, and they could only compound potentially moving forward against that schedule that they're going to face. And if you could build the equity of going 5-1 here on this homestand, still possible. It could sweep Pittsburgh, right? That's at least a possibility. Pivetta, Cease pitching Friday and Saturday. So, I mean, I'm still comfortable that they'll hopefully win back-to-back series and go 4-2 or better this homestand. But it just feels like if you were hoping for 5-1, maybe now it's going to be 4-2. If there was any path towards 6-0, maybe now it's 5-1 or 4-2. And again, with that schedule coming up, not that they have to be perfect. They're still 8 games over 500. We're exactly a third of the way through the season. They've played 54 games. Multiply it by 3, it equals 162. They're pacing for 93 wins, which ironically enough is how many games they won last year. A year ago, of course, they weren't pacing for anything near 93 wins. They were 50-50 at one point, another 46 games into the future last year, and they still won 93 games. But what I would say is you can't anticipate that. You can't plan for the Padres to play historically well over the final 2 months of the season like they did in 2024. That was a little bit of a blue moon occurrence. Now, hopefully, based on the way they played out of the gates, they don't need to play like that down the stretch. If they can maintain 8 or 10 games of distance from 500, and we fast forward to the end of July, and as opposed to being a 500 team, they're 10 games over 500 or more based on their pace, then they don't have to close 43-19. Maybe they can close, making it up, 33-29. You'd hope they play better than that, but you get my point. They're not going to have to play at that absurd 700 plus clip, hopefully, based on the work that they've done here early in the season. But remember, this was a team that was 14-3. So when you kind of splice it down, they were 14-3. Since that moment, they are 17-20. So not the end of the world, not horrific, not awful, but subpar and below average. And the 17-20 is more games than the 14-3. It's twice as many games. So the 17-20 is what they've done here for well over a month, especially with the off days. I mean, this is the last 6+ weeks. They're 17-20. That 14-3 was the first 3 weeks. So 3 weeks of outstanding play, 6 weeks of mediocre or below average play. And you're kind of asking for it here. 7 against the Dodgers, 4 on the road against the Giants, 3 or 4, I forget what it is, maybe 3 against Arizona on the road. They're in Milwaukee over that stretch. 17 games with 14 on the road. And those opponents, again, you don't have to go anything better maybe than 8-9, 9-8 to feel decent about yourself. But what if you do worse than that? Then you have work to do once you get into the second half of the year. Because basically when we get through that 17-game stretch, because that's 17, you got the 3 games against Pittsburgh, so that's 20 more games. We're going to look up after that stretch. They'll have played 74 games. We'll be approaching the halfway point of the season. So again, I think all things considered, the first couple of games of the series were really encouraging. The way in which they won the games. Came back from 3-0 down Monday night. Manny Machado had that huge moment. Came back from 6-0 down on Tuesday. They looked like the 2024 Padres, never out of a game. And you thought after that, like, this is a dangerous team that feels like they can basically win, in a variety of ways, right? They can overcome deficits. They can protect leads. But then today, you kind of saw some of the warts. You don't have Michael King. You slide back Nick Pivetta. Kyle Hart's in there. Listen, I don't want to put it all on Kyle Hart. You know, it's going to be what it is this year for Hart in the major leagues. I mean, clearly at best, he's a number 5 starter. He's more like a number 6 starter or number 7 starter right now in the major leagues. I mean, you're kind of hoping and praying with him on the mound. He can give you a little bit of length in the fact that maybe he can give you 5 innings, but you're going to use your offense, obviously, to back him. He pitched well enough by and large until he didn't. And with a fully rested bullpen, maybe he has a quicker hook. And maybe he leaves with a larger lead and they're able to protect it. But it just wasn't meant to be here today. We knew heading into today that he would have to give them 5+ innings, right? Like to feel good about your chances. And then once they scored 5 runs in the bottom of the 4th inning, it's like, listen, whatever Hart does, you're good. I mean, you got a 6-1 lead. There isn't a staff in baseball that shouldn't hold a 6-1 lead midway through the game at home against really any opponent, right? The math would support holding 6-1 leads. On average, what percent of baseball teams hold 5-run leads through 4 innings? I would guess you're probably winning that game across the sport. This would include all the teams, including the bad ones. My guess is a 5-run lead through 4 innings at home is safe over 97% of the time. Like, yeah, that's anecdotal, but who disagrees with that? Like, are more than 3 in 100 teams, or are there more than 3 in 100 instances of teams coming back from 5 runs down after 4 innings when playing at home? No. I mean, the odds are overwhelmingly stacked in your favor to win the game, and a team as good as San Diego probably should win that game 99% of the time. But they didn't. And I've said that a few times this year, that a team with this bullpen, with this offense, with this home field advantage, so on and so forth, should win a game. I've said that. I know I've said that 3 or 4 times, and all the circumstances have been different. But here's another example of, well, I feel like a broken record. I've said that 3 or 4 times, and a 99% win, they lost. It's like when they say it's a 1,000-year storm and you get them in back-to-back years. Like, well, hold on. It's a 1,000-year storm. It's happened in back-to-back years. How are you supposed to win a game 99% of the time, but you've already lost 3 of those this year? And I know they've held a lot of leads, and I know their bullpen's been really good. And I think without the bullpen being a strength, they're probably not anywhere near 31-23. And maybe they've thrown away 3 or 4 more games. They're more like 28-26 right now. But with all that being said, it also feels like they've let a few get away, where even if you just had 2 more of them, including today, and I think that's completely fair, and there's at least one other, and I know there are more than one other, but let's just say for the sake of argument that they should have 2 more wins based on that 99% theory. I mean, they'd be 33-21, and you'd feel a lot better about their prospects heading into this difficult schedule coming up in June. So that's where we are. It's still helter-skelter for guys like Fernando Tatis Jr. yesterday hits the home run, has 2 hits. You think he's kind of out of the funk, and he goes 0 for 4 here today. Manny Machado had the costly error here today. Jackson Merrill homered yesterday. He was 1 for 4 in this game. Gavin Sheets is unbelievable. Again, you can't be wasting games like this from Gavin Sheets. He had a couple of slow games. I think he was 0 for 9 in the first 2 games of the series with a walk. And for him to come through in that spot, and for him to come through in as many spots as he has this year, and for him to be controllable, I think, through 2027 as well. So not just this year, but each of the next 2 years. That's obviously really encouraging. So again, like the long view of it is, you have pieces in place both now and moving forward to put yourself in a position, hopefully, to be successful in 2025 and beyond. The short view of it is, as good as this team is, I feel like they should be better. I don't know if anyone agrees with that point. This is a good team. I've tried to consistently make this point. This is a good team. How good, obviously, remains to be seen. Nobody can predict the future. I'd be very surprised if they were anything other than a good team. This, to me, is not 2021. I don't think wheels fall off. This, to me, is not 2023, where they were just hovering all year below 500 and never, turned the car over, so to speak. This isn't 2019, when they were nowhere near ready, even though they kind of competed, so to speak, for the first half of the year. I think they went into the All-Star break taking 3 out of 4 at Dodger Stadium. They might have been a 500 team in Manny's first year in 2019. But you get my point. You can't compare this team, in my opinion, to any of those teams, and this team should stand alone. I don't even want to compare them to 2024, because that's not fair to 2024, and it's not fair to 2025. I think it's a good team. I think it has a chance to be a very good team. The thing that can hold it back is the starting pitching injuries and the flux in the rotation. I think Mike Shildt said post-game today that they got a report on Michael King, and I kind of scoffed and laughed when I heard what he said. He said the report was, and this is a direct quote, very excellent, whatever that means. So a very excellent report. Do we take him at his word? Because there is no overcoming not having Michael King. It can be overcome in the short term. There is no overcoming not having Michael King long term. Simple as that. And I also believe there's no overcoming not having Yu Darvish if you didn't have him all year. Now, I'm not willing to get to that point yet. Maybe he's back in 7 days, Yu Darvish. And hopefully Michael King's back at some point in the next 10 days. And it would be complete, water under the bridge, part of the sport. Injuries happen. You can live with it if a starting pitcher's on the IL for 15 days. But I don't know how you replace Michael King. And truthfully, I don't know how over 162 you replace Yu Darvish. And this has been the constant story of the San Diego Padres this decade. 2020, they played really well. I know it was the short season. They got off to that phenomenal start, and they had pitching injuries everywhere, right? Pitching injury to Nelson Lamet, Mike Clevenger, no starters in the postseason. They're swept by the Dodgers in Arlington, right? After somehow winning that series against St. Louis. It made no sense. They did it with smoke and mirrors, right? It was remarkable. And then 2021, I'm getting all these years confused now. 2022, the remarkable series against the Dodgers, but then they run out of starting pitching against the Phillies. And you're pitching Mike Clevenger and Sean Manaea in a must-win game with a big lead, and they can't preserve that lead, whatever game that was, game 3 or game 4. In Philadelphia, I think game 4 down 2-1. And then there's last year you lose Joe Musgrove in the postseason. Like, how impactful was that? Obviously significantly impactful. So you can't excuse away, or you can tell yourself in your head that everything's going to be okay at the end of the day and all this can be overcome. But there isn't anything more impactful than starting pitching effectiveness and health. Listen, the Dodgers won a World Series last year. They did it by and large with 2 starting pitchers in the postseason. Their bullpen was effective and well beyond that. And they had bullpen games that worked out for them. They also had an elite lineup, right? And everything came together at the right time. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's improbable especially when you don't have the front of your rotation available to you. You know that Joe Musgrove's already out, right? So that's $20 million of dead money. You know that Yu Darvish has been out, and it's hard to count on him. I mean, are we counting on him right now for October, even if they get there? And then we know that there's a big question mark over Michael King's head right now. And you may say, well, it's still May and it's not late in the year and they still have a trade deadline. All of it's true, but starting pitching's at a premium. You can only bring on so much additional payroll, would be my guess. And what type of, system do you have in terms of, what will your system be able to turn over to you? I'm not saying that right, but you get my point. Do you have enough equity in your system to get the return that you want? Do you have enough capital? Do you have enough prospects in your system to get the return you want? So all these are things I'm talking about and thinking about on some random May day where they lose to the Marlins 10-8. All right, guys. Please subscribe to this channel. If you subscribe to this channel, you get more of that type of insight, whether you want it or not. I just went on some 20-minute rant on some random May game that ended 5 hours ago. So please subscribe to this channel. Please smash the like button. Please follow me on X. And thank you for the super chats. I see the first super of the night just rolled in. If you want to support the channel, if you want to have your comment on screen, if you want to control the direction, if you have a question, click the $ below the chat box. Slotting ain't easy. Excuse me. I think I have something stuck in my throat. Hold on. Long day. Thanks, Jim. Go to Hawaii more. I was telling Jim to stay in Hawaii, but now that the Padres blew a 6-1 lead, maybe he needs to come home sooner rather than later. Slotting ain't easy. Thank you for the generous super chat. Saying, why does Shildt bring in relievers to pitch last out, wait 20 minutes, then back in for the next inning? Seems to throw their momentum off. Thoughts? I think in the nouveau age of 3-batter minimum, it actually makes way more sense to bring a reliever on with 2 outs. Why? Because of the 3-batter minimum, there's a exemption or exception, which is if you get out of an inning, the minimum no longer applies. So you can go to a reliever lefty on lefty or righty on righty, and you can try to take advantage of a a sequence, a spot in that lineup where you have a better chance of twofold. A, you just go lefty on lefty and get out of an inning and then turn things over to the next reliever. To your point, sometimes you do it and then that pitcher is going to start the next inning. But remember the 3-batter minimum, they've already faced at least one batter at that point. So now the next inning, they don't have to face more than 2 batters. There's that. And then also you bring on a reliever with 2 outs. And if they run into trouble, you'd like to think that there's less trouble on the other side because they only need 1 out in that spot. They don't need to record 2 or 3 outs. So if they don't have it with 2 outs, it's better than not having it with no outs, if that makes sense, because you only have to get 1 additional out. So I don't think it's unconventional at all in 2025 baseball. And I think that a lot of these relievers understand the role that they're going to fill. Now, oftentimes guys that are high leverage and have certified like roles, like their roles like are nailed down, like Jason Adam, Robert Suarez, those guys are typically getting 1 inning. They're not typically, working the final out of an inning and then getting back up to work another inning. It's going to happen over the course of a year. Robert Suarez is going to be asked to get 4 out, maybe even a 5-out save. Guys like Adrian Morejon may be asked to pitch 2 innings, or Jeremiah Estrada might have to pitch an inning in the 3rd, or Jason Adam. You get the point, so on and so forth. But with guys like Yuki Matsui, that's part of the job. Someone like Sean Reynolds, that's just part of it. It's not always going to be a clean inning. You wish it was always going to be a clean inning, but there are so many factors at play, including like platoon, left on left, right on right, what's going on with the starting pitcher, pitch counts. Like there's so many factors at play that I don't think that what they're doing is outside the realm of normal, or they're asking their pitchers to do something that other clubs aren't asking their relievers to do. So that's my 2 cents on it. I think it's a good comment. It's a good question, but I don't find it personally to be abnormal. If you disagree, you can put it in the chat. But watching the way baseball's played out since 3-batter minimum, you see a lot of that where managers go to relievers for those lefty on lefty spots with 2 outs as opposed to 1 out, because with 1 out, you still have to face the second batter. So if it's left, right, due up, that left-handed reliever is still going to have to face a right-handed batter in the inning. All right, we're going to get back to the conversation. I see a super chat from MBs just rolled in, so I'll get to that momentarily. Guys, if you're here, subscribe. And if you're here, thank you for your support of the channel. I do want to thank our title sponsor here, Mark Nimitz, who's been with us since day one on the wrap-up show. I've been with Mark with homeowners and earthquake and life insurance for 4 years, or the better part of 4 years. And if you've got an insurance need, let Mark take care of you. I mean, trust me, we had to file a claim in here in 2022. We had a flood, and we were out of our house for 2 weeks, and Mark took care of everything, put us up for a couple of weeks. They put all new flooring in here. It had to cost, I have no idea how much money it cost. I mean, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, some ridiculous amount of money. And it was all covered thanks to Mark. And he took care of everything, saved us so much time in addition to money. So if you ever need him, Mark's going to be there for you. Click the link in the description down below. Get free quotes online. Call Mark. He'll talk to you about the Padres. He loves the Padres. He's a native San Diegan. If you support this channel, please support Mark Nimitz. Whatever it is, auto, home, renters, life, please support our title sponsor. Click the link in the description down below. And thank you, Mark, for your support of the wrap-up show. All right, let's get back to it here, as I see some super chats are rolling in. Padres fall to the Marlins Wednesday afternoon down at Petco, 10-8. They led this game 6-1. They blow that 5-run lead after overcoming 3-run and 6-run deficits in the first 2 games of the series. They win the series, but they lose the series finale. MBs, thank you. He says, it scares me when we don't close the door against teams like the Marlins after leading 6-1. Good teams handle their business. We have great team. Yeah, interesting perspective. I mean, I do agree that good teams hold leads of that magnitude by and large. Probably if we looked at all all 30 teams over 162 games, I would guess that 29 or more of the teams will blow a 5-run lead this year in a loss. Is that going too far? You guys tell me. I mean, you're going to have 20 plus teams blow a 5-run lead this year, would be my guess, over the course of 162. I mean, it's not the first time this year a team's overcome a 5-run deficit. The Padres did it yesterday. So the Marlins are in the category. The Padres are in the category. You get my point, right? I'm sure already 10 plus teams are in that category. It's only May. So over 162, anything can happen. I mean, anything can happen to any one team over 162. I mean, the Seattle Mariners, when they went 116 and 46, probably had a bad loss, believe it or not. So anything can truly happen over the course of 162. The part that I would not question in your comment is the part where the jury is still out is you're right. We have a great team. That remains to be seen. That remains to be seen because, when they were 14-3 or when they were fully healthy, like it's hard to say you have a great team when it's May. I mean, maybe if you're coming off a World Series title, or maybe if you have the best record in baseball, or maybe if you're fully healthy, it's just there's always a reason for skepticism. And this team again is 17-20 over its last 37. So I don't think I would go as far as to say right now the Padres have a great team. I would go as far as to say this is a good team, which with a chance to get better, and a chance to be very good, and from there maybe better than that. But it's hard for me. They had a 6-game losing streak within the last 10 days, and they had a day like today. They're without Michael King. They're without Yu Darvish. They have the left field situation that's playing out. So I don't think I would say that today. That's just me. That's my 2 cents. It's not a knock, truthfully. Me saying that they're a good team, not a great team right now, I just think is being fair and reasonable. I think if I say they're a great team, I'd be probably disingenuous. And I don't want to do that. And I leave open the possibility that we can say it again. Listen, if there's another 14-3 stretch in there this year, and if Michael King's back in the mound and there's no issues at all and it's full steam ahead and you get Darvish and you add at the deadline, I absolutely may be saying that in the second half of this year, because they're another 14-3 stretch away from being the best team in baseball. But does it feel like they're about to go on a 14-3 stretch when Kyle Hart's in the rotation right now? Randy Vasquez has been good, although the indicators wouldn't tell you that that's sustainable. And we maybe ran into a little bit of that last year with Matt Waldron. You're playing all these games, 22 games in 23 days, something like that, come Friday. Got the tough schedule. So I reserve judgment on calling them a great team, is what I would say. But I will call them a good team, and I think that's fair, even with today. But calling them a great team for me is a little disingenuous, in my opinion. JD's third. What's going on, man? Appreciate you. He says, didn't AJ have the entire offseason knowing what our holes were? Why are we still talking about this in May? Fans knew Yuli was trash. Rockstar GM A. Yuli Gurriel? Who cares? It's a $1 million fringe signing. I mean, look at it like this. Of course he knew what his needs were, but he also knew he had only so much money in his wallet. It's like saying that I'm going to the grocery store. I need to buy food for my family of 4, but I only have $100. Well, you have to sacrifice in some areas. You might want to get the chicken, but you end up getting turkey. You might want to get quinoa, but you end up with rice. This is like the John Schaefer analogies, right? You got to work within your means. He's not in charge of the budget. He doesn't set the budget. So there's a pie chart. And when you come down to the end of the pie and you got $2 million to spend, how are you going to spend it? So that's not really fully on AJ. Now, he put the roster together over the years, so you can put some of it on AJ. Hey, why did they spend this much on Xander Bogaerts, for example? Or what do you do with dead money like Eric Hosmer or Joe Musgrove right now because of injury? So, yeah, it all is fair, but putting Jason Hayward and Yuli Gurriel on AJ, okay, yeah, he signed these players, but that's because he had no money to work with, and he was trying to make the best of a bad situation because you don't have unlimited resources. They're already over the CBT threshold, and you can only go so much over it. They have no TV revenue. Yeah, they draw like crazy, and their revenues are significant, and their payroll is significant. Their payroll is, again, a payroll that's going to be over the CBT, but I don't put the holes really on AJ. We knew and said it all offseason, without Jerks and Profar, you weren't going to be anywhere near as good in left field. And what they prioritized, Pivetta over Profar, makes a lot of sense. And now with the benefit of fast forwarding 2 months into the season, I would make that decision 100 out of 100. I mean, we didn't know Profar was going to end up being suspended, but we also didn't know Nick Pivetta was going to pitch this way. And we also didn't know that the Padres would need Nick Pivetta, considering Darvish. We knew about Musgrove. We didn't know about King. So listen, when you only have so many dollars in your wallet and you're going to have to make the best of it, you're going to have to cut corners. And all teams other than the Dodgers right now have to cut corners. Maybe the Dodgers and the Mets. And That includes the San Diego Padres. So I don't think this is some indictment today on AJ Preller. I really don't. But I appreciate the super. All right. What is going on? My man Carlos, who goes by Dario right here in the chat. Thank you for the super, dude. He's got a couple. Now, when Carlos wants to vent, he's going to vent. So I appreciate you guys bearing with us. And I appreciate you, Carlos, for being here, man. I hope you're doing well, by the way. We need to get together. I haven't seen you in forever. I saw Carlos in Mexico City a couple of years ago. He got me tickets. That was super cool. Carlos spent time with me and my wife. He actually, you know what, Carlos? I don't even know if you realize this. You're the one that got me into coffee, believe it or not, because we met at a coffee joint in Mexico City. And I want to say, when we went in there, you're like, what do you want? I'm like, I'm not really a coffee drinker. And you suggested maybe a chai latte. And that kind of got me hooked on chai lattes. Now, since then, I've kind of become hooked on Diet Coke, which is worse than a chai latte. So I should get back to chai lattes. But I'm pretty sure you were the one that got me hooked on a latte or a chai latte. We've hung out before in San Diego at a Petco, but I hope you're doing well, man. Really do. Anyway, after all that, he says, this is dog crap. Wandy over Morejon. I knew disaster was coming the moment he entered the game. Secondly, Enriquez had no command on the fastball, and they were early on his off-speed. Pathetic, no life. Enriquez had no command, and they were early on his off-speed. Pathetic. Yeah. He went on to say, let me just follow up with this. This is Shildt loss, bad bullpen decisions. Peralta isn't a high-leverage guy. We've always known that. He screwed up. Tatis looks dead. Pathetic, too. Listen, I understand the frustration today, and I spent 15 or 20 minutes on it earlier. And I don't disagree with the overall thought that I think a lot of Padres fans share here today, which is what on earth got you in a situation where A, Wandy Peralta is pitching in that leverage spot, and B, you have no one up behind him to face a right-handed batter. Completely get it. Like, that to me is pretty inexplicable, almost unexplainable. Seemingly egregious, although again, we didn't know who was available and who wasn't. And you look at these bullpen charts, and I don't even have it in front of me, Carlos, and not to excuse it, but these guys have been taxed and they've been playing in extra innings and they haven't had near the off days that they had earlier. With all that being said, I agree with you. I mean, I'm not saying it as bluntly as you're saying it, but I'm not disagreeing with the sentiment. I completely understand it. And I hate to throw a game away in a division as good as this division where you know that it all matters. Like catching a team like LA or even vying. I know San Francisco's come back to earth and had a terrible series, but this is a good division. Arizona, San Francisco, LA, and San Diego. You just don't want to throw games away that you should win 99 out of 100 times, and it feels like that happened today. And I rarely called a Shildt loss, to your point, and I have no problems with that. I have no qualms with that. You know, I agree with it, and I do think some of the decisions made today, not some, I mean, they're staring you right in the face and you're watching it play out and you know that they're asking for trouble and you're hoping they get through it. And then it's kind of an afterthought and it is what it is. But in real time, it was evident that they had basically run themselves into the ground and they had put themselves in the corner where there were like no outs. Like that was the issue. It's like, well, what happens if Wandy Peralta doesn't get out of this spot that he shouldn't even be in right now? So yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of just a game that was thrown away, you know, a game that was thrown away, which you hate to do over 162. There's probably going to be a game like that. It's not an excuse, but yeah, it feels like this is a game that they found a way to lose. That's what it feels like to me. He followed up with this saying, haha, nice. Glad to make you addicted to chai latte. Back in San Diego, let's hit a game one of these weeks. Will be good to say hi. Absolutely, man. Let's do it. Let's do it. Absolutely. I would love to do that. Me and Jim are not downtown as much as we had been because of our radio show. We used to do more remotes in some of these bars downtown. For whatever reason, we're not doing them currently. I think we'll be doing some maybe in the second half of the year, but would love to get down there and get together. You know how it is, man. Riding the emotions of a long year. And I get it because I work with Jim. So I'm the one that tries to keep the train on the tracks. Jim takes it off the tracks. I bring it back on. Sometimes I'm the one that goes off the rails. He brings it back on. But I get being a fan, man. I really do. And covering this team as much as we do and spending as much time watching these games. This was one of those games where you felt like you kind of want to pull your hair out. Like, how did they lose this game? They should never lose a game like this at home. They just should. I mean, they shouldn't lose a game like this on the road, but they certainly should not. It felt like Miami was like When it was 6-1, it's like, start the bus, warm up the plane, let's get back to South Florida. Like, we have no business being anywhere near this other team. They're in a different weight class. We're AAA, they're major leagues. That's what it felt like at times in this series. The situation that played out with Ronnie Simon yesterday at second base with the Marlins, where he couldn't field a ball or throw a ball. It didn't seem as if the Padres were doing anything other than sweeping the series until they didn't. And it's the major leagues, and you look away for one moment, and in the major leagues that can be costly. And that's what happened in this game. How they blew that 6-1 lead, it's more than just Peralta. How that whole thing unraveled there in the fifth inning as well. So it's more than just Peralta for me, but the points are valid from Carlos. DS, thank you for the super. He says, hey, brother, have you ever dealt with COMC's shady BS? Is COMC something with trading cards? It is, right? I'm just getting into it, dude. I have no clue what COMC means. Follow up with me either in the chat, although I'm not going to see it, or email me, because I'm learning about the card business. I've been learning on the fly, so I have no clue about COMC. But if you want to tell me more, hit me up, DM me on X, or DM me on Instagram at John Schaefer. Would love to hear more. Thanks, DS, for your support. And then Carlos following up by saying, P.S. People hating on me yesterday for booing Xander Bogaerts every AB during his game. $280 million bust, and I'm getting reprimanded. That wouldn't happen in New York. I know he's put together a couple of games with some base hits. Obviously, he's nowhere near the player that he was. And I've said that, Carlos. You've heard me say it. I've said this recently. It's probably the last week or 10 days. I mean, he's hitting 249 with a 681 OPS a third of the way through the season. You're right. I mean, this is not the player they signed. He's not. And I have no idea what happened to the player that was in Boston. It's not to put any of this today on Xander. I think he's had 5 hits in the last 2 games, but 681 OPS and 3 home runs a third of the way through the season. Is he going to hit 10 home runs this year? Is he going to have a 750 OPS? That would be surprising if he gets that OPS up to 750. I mean, he's like kind of an afterthought in your lineup. He's like the 6th best weapon offensively, maybe 7th, because I think you got your big 4 at the top. You got Sheets and Cronenworth, and then you have Bogaerts. I think he's your 7th. He's the 7th, biggest bat in your lineup each and every game. 7th guy that's getting paid for forever and making that kind of money. Your point is spot on, Carlos. I'm not going to disagree with you tonight. I think I agree. I mean, am I going there booing him every at bat? Probably not. But do I understand frustration with the Bogaerts contract? And yeah, I do. I think it's costly in the short, medium, and long term, that deal. And people were saying earlier, how could you have, Yuli Gurriel out there, Jason Hayward? Well, some of it is because of what they have going on with the money tied up in Xander Bogaerts. There's no question about that. All right, guys, we're going to get back to the conversation. Do want to remind you about our friends over at SeatGeek. They have hooked you guys up here on the wrap-up show, because if you use promo code PODSWRAP, that's PADSWRAP, you're getting $20 off your tickets at SeatGeek. Your order of $50 or more, you're going to get $20 off. That's right. Your first order of $20 or more, your first order of $50 or more, you're going to get $20 off with promo code PODSWRAP. That's PADSWRAP. Just make sure to click the link in the description. You're going to download the app, have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. We do want to thank our friends at SeatGeek. And here's the thing. They are Major League Baseball's official ticket marketplace, which means your tickets are fully guaranteed and they're instantly fulfilled. All right. It's been downloaded by tens of millions. It's the #1 rated ticketing app. And let's click on Padres, Pirates, Friday night. Let's say we want to pair. How about section 133 in the outfield for $50 each, including fees? Take $20 off. If it's your first purchase of $50 or more with promo code PODSWRAP, you got a pair of tickets for a Friday night in 133 for $80 with the promo code. So you're really not going to do better than that. I mean, shoot, you can sit. Let's see. We can sit here. We can sit, extended first base line for $59, including fees. We can sit closer. How about that? Extended down the right field line for $64. So you get the point. Click that link in the description down below. Download the app. Use promo code PODSWRAP. That's PADSWRAP. Get out to Petco Park this weekend. Support the Padres and get $20 off your first order. Thanks to our friends over at SeatGeek. All right, let's reset for a moment. If you are here, subscribe. year-round content for you. Thank you all seriously for your support of this channel, because we have blown by 8,500 subscribers within the last 24 hours. So we do appreciate that. Hopefully on our way for 10,000 subscribers at some point here in 2025 and beyond. Would appreciate it if you smash the like button, and thank you to those that have supported with the super chats and the memberships. Click the join button down below if you want to become a member, get the emojis and the badges, and click the $ below the chat box if you want to make sure to see your comment on screen and support with a super chat. So I don't even know what we've said so far about today's game, and that's why I'm kind of pulling up the box score. I mean, it's just kind of a general reaction to the state of the Padres with the King injury, and Kyle Hart has to step in, and Cruz being optioned, and them running out of relief pitching in the second half of this game. It's just kind of, again, a disappointing day in the midst of what had been a pretty good 72 hours with the Sunday win in Atlanta, the Monday come from behind win, the Tuesday come from behind win. So you felt good. You would have felt great, I think, if you won today. That would have been 5 out of 6 into an off day, sweeping the Marlins. I think Padres fans would have felt great. You would have put that 6-game losing streak completely in the rearview mirror if the Padres won today. I would have said, back on track, sitting in a good position. Yes, concerned medium term about these pitching injuries, but in the here and now, I would have felt really good about where they were sitting. And then you run into an inning like they ran into today, where they give up a 6-1 lead, then take back the lead on Gavin Sheets. How you get that moment? That came with 2 outs, didn't it? It came with 2 outs. I'm just looking up the scoring here. I know it came with 2 outs. Correct me if I'm wrong. It came with 2 outs. How you get a 2-out home run from Gavin Sheets to give you a lead from 1 run down to 1 run up and lose that game against the Marlins is, again, inexplicable, I think is the right word. JD's third, thank you again, man. He says, winners find solutions for unfinished business. Yeah, I mean, they have found some solutions this year, and they're going to need to continue to find more. It's as simple as that. Again, by and large, they've been good. They're better than they were a year ago at this time. That does not mean they're going to be better than they were a year ago when the season ends. So it's a very long year. We all understand that. There are no straight lines in this sport, and this has not been that, with the 14-3 followed by a 17-20 and a 6-game losing streak in there. So listen, look at it like this. Get through this Pittsburgh series with 2 or more wins, and we're going to look up, and the Padres are going to be, let's see, if they go 2-1 against Pittsburgh, and hopefully better, they have dominated Pittsburgh in recent history. Hopefully that continues. You go 2-1, you're 33-24, 9 games over 500 into those 17 that we've been talking about, where, let's say you went 8-9 and, weren't perfect over that stretch. You'd still be 8 games over 500 on the other side of it. So it wouldn't be the worst case in the world. And they're capable of playing well over that stretch. I'm just highlighting that stretch because it's important. It's magnified. If you go 6-11, it's magnified. If you go 11-6, it's magnified. It just feels like it's, you kind of put it in, you highlight it. I'm highlighting those 17 games because it just feels like it's going to be important over the course of those 162, what they do in those 17 games, with 14 of them on the road and 7 of them against the Dodgers. And all this talk about 31-23, a third of the way through the season. The thing that we fail to mention is they have 108 games to play, right? So they played a third of their season. Of the 108, 13 of them are against the Dodgers, and maybe 11 of them are against the Giants, and maybe still 13 are against Arizona. Do I have that right? So that's 26. Roughly 37 of your last 108 are against those 3 teams. That's challenging for the Padres opponents too. It's not like it's a cakewalk for the Dodgers against the Padres or the Diamondbacks, so on and so forth. But again, I do think the schedule stiffens, which means that it might be harder to keep this pace. Might. Doesn't mean they can't keep this pace, but it might be harder to keep this pace moving forward, is what I would say about that. But again, like, let me see what I write down here for my notes, if there's anything I haven't touched on as of yet. Again, some of this is predictable because of King's injury, right? Some of this was predictable. We didn't want to believe that, but it's true. You can't just replace Michael King, and you can't just replace Yu Darvish, even though they've kind of replaced Yu Darvish to this point in the year. And they had a golden opportunity that they squandered. I'll give you another thing that might have been costly in this game. There's two moments within this game that we've just kind of glazed over. One of them I haven't even touched on. Fernando Tatis Jr. ran through a stop sign with a 6-1 lead. And if he would have held up, we have no idea how many more runs the Padres could have scored in the inning. Might have been 0, might have been 100,000, right? Because innings are untimed, so to speak. So they were all over Miami in whatever inning that was early. They gave them a 6-1 lead. So let's see here. So they scored 5 runs in the fourth, and they could have scored more if not for Tatis running through a stop sign and being gunned down at home by 15 feet. So we'll never know how costly it was, but that's what ended the fourth inning. And then it was Miami in the next half inning that responded with those 5 runs. If the Padres follow up and Tatis holds at third and they have another base hit in that inning, who knows what that hit is? Single scores a run, double scores 2 runs, home run scores 3 runs. I mean, we'll never know what would have happened, but that could have been the difference today between winning and losing. Another moment we've barely touched on is Machado had a ground ball that ate him up. He still was able to glove it, and then he couldn't corral it in the exchange. And he has to make that play, plain and simple. Has to make that play. I don't think it's a double play ball, but they absolutely have to get an out in the inning. And if they do that, the result here today could have been different in the 8th inning. Jason Adams just didn't have it. There's no question about it. And again, you were asking for trouble with Peralta facing Ramirez in the 8th inning with 2 outs. Simple as that. You were asking for that to happen. Doesn't mean it's always going to happen. Doesn't mean he's not capable of getting out of that spot. But you are asking for trouble leaving Wandy Peralta in that spot. And again, I'm not the one that has to come up with the plan and the solutions. That's on the Padres. They should have a plan going into the game. It's not like the expectation was Kyle Hart's going to give you 6 innings. So they had to at least have an idea of what the plan was going to be if Kyle Hart only gave you 4 or 5 innings. And it's not like he only gave you an inning. He gave you 4 2/3 innings. There should have been a plan to help you navigate this game better than was navigated today by the Padres. I do think that's fair. All right, we'll continue the conversation in a moment. I do want to thank our friends over at Mova Globes. And if you want one of these, they have all 30 Major League teams officially licensed. All you need to do is click the link in the description down below and use promo code PWS10. You're going to get 10% off. These spin automatically with artificial or natural light. They are terrific gift ideas for the baseball fan in your life, whether it's a Padres fan or a Cubs fan or anywhere in between. Pick these up, click the link in the description down below, use promo code PWS10. You heard me right. The promo code is PWS10. They spin automatically with artificial or natural light. The company's based in San Diego. This technology where there's no cords, there's no wires, there's no nothing, there's no batteries. This technology invented right here in North County in Cardiff by the Sea. So great gift idea, great for a home or work office. Your family's going to love them. They have other globes as well that aren't Major League Baseball globes that you're going to love as well. Check them out. Use the promo code. Get 10% off with promo code PWS10. Love that idea, JP. Mova Globe, Jim's bald head collaboration. Absolutely love that. Well, here's the good news. After all this, all this commentary, all this critiquing, the good news is it's Pittsburgh this weekend and you're not seeing Paul Skeens. That doesn't guarantee anything because we've seen the Padres swept at home by the Mariners and the Rays this year. But the good news is the good news, which is Pittsburgh this weekend for 3. And then the bad news is the bad news. And that's the 17 games on the other side of it, with 14 of them on the road. And again, the open-ended questions of what's the deal with Michael King and Yu Darvish. And I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. The more they talk or Mike Shildt talks, the more confused and confounding the situation is. That's kind of how I see it. I'm crossing my fingers. I'm hopeful. I don't think, truthfully, it's not to blame Mike Shildt. I don't think he knows the extent of what Michael King is dealing with. I don't know if he knows the full extent of what Yu Darvish is dealing with. He's not the training staff. He's not a doctor. He's relaying messaging, and he's also representing the Padres, and he's a mouthpiece to the fans. So there's some PR that goes into that. There's some spin that goes into that. Completely understand it. There's gamesmanship that goes into it as well around the sport. So again, it's looming and it's hanging. And we had some of this last year where Joe Musgrove missed time, Yu Darvish missed time. Padres overcame it by and large until they didn't, which is when they had to turn to Dylan Cease on 3 days rest in Game 4 of the NLDS. So that was pretty impressive that they were able to play the way they played there in the second half of the year. And where they eventually ran out of steam was because they didn't have Joe Musgrove, and they had to turn to a pitcher on 3 days rest. And we'll never know what would have happened in that series if Musgrove was healthy, but that's part of sports. And that's why I truly believe when we approach the deadline, which is still 2 months away, that you have to address starting pitching, even if you're healthy. Even if Darvish is in your rotation and pitching well, even if King is in your rotation and pitching well, I just don't think you can have too much starting pitching. And the depth is critically important, and you can't predict what happens on the other side of the deadline. Nobody can, and the Padres have been done in by a lack of starting pitching in the last 3 postseasons they've been a part of since 2020. So that's kind of that's my key point I'm going to hammer home throughout the next couple of months, no matter how this team plays, because I think that prevents them from reaching their ceiling. Yes, left field, of course, we're going to be talking about, but starting pitching is so much more important. They didn't lose this game today because of left field. They lost this game because they didn't have Michael King. Like, simple as that. And bullpen. I mean, what upgrades can you make in your bullpen? Those are easier to make, obviously, and I think they will address that because most teams that are ticketed or heading towards a postseason or believe they're a postseason team are going to try to upgrade their bullpen. They're going to try to upgrade their rotation as well. And the rotation piece of it is easier said than done and can be very costly to try to acquire frontline starting pitching, costly from both a system perspective, but also from a monetary and financial piece as well for the team. So that's where we are, a third of the way through the season. That's where we are. Padres, again, 8 games over 500 on pace, believe it or not, for 93 wins, which is the exact number of wins that they had again in 2024. Well, is it going to be as simple as that, where we just fast forward and they play 31 and 23 at this pace moving forward? No, of course they're not going to play like that all season long. There'll be highs, hopefully. There'll be lows, hopefully not as many of the lows, but yeah, I mean, it's not like 31 and 23 is what they're going to do every third of the season to get them to 93 and 69. All right, I do want to mention our friends over at Underdog because some of you have not yet signed up. Make sure to click that link in the description down below. Use promo code PODSWRAP. That's PADSWRAP. Get a free gimme pick. What's that look like? That looks like tomorrow night, Tyrese Halliburton, as opposed to higher or lower than 21.5 points. How about higher or lower than a half point? They'll give you a play like that. Doesn't necessarily have to be Halliburton, but something like that. The free gimme pick plus a 50% deposit match up to $1,000. Just click the link in the description down below and use promo code PODSWRAP. But look how simple and easy this is. You just choose higher or lower, okay? And you can do it across all sports, including Major League Baseball. Now, the Padres aren't playing tomorrow, so let's just see what's on the MLB schedule. You just say Bryce Harper's going to homer tomorrow. And then let's say Acuna higher than 7.5 fantasy points. Okay. For whatever reason, they're not letting me do that, but you get the point. I mean, simple higher or lowers, and the more you pick, the more you can win. And you can win big. How do I get rid of Acuna here? Why are they yelling at me about Acuna? All right, there we go. Right there, though, the plays I just made, those 5 picks, $10 can pay up to $396. You can flex it, which means you don't even have to get all of them right, and you can still win big. So it couldn't be easier, couldn't be simpler, couldn't be more fun. Click that link in the description down below. Use promo code PODSWRAP. Get the free gimme pick, get the 50% deposit match, and thank you to our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. All right, a couple of programming announcements because we're back on the air tomorrow. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. By we, I mean me. And I'll have shows Thursday and Friday, of course, on the radio. There will not be, believe it or not, there will not be a wrap-up show Friday night because I'm going to Las Vegas with my wife and my 6-year-old, and Jim is still going to be, he's still Maui Jim. I think he's actually in Honolulu, but I like calling him Maui Jim. I don't know when he comes back, either Saturday or Sunday. We will have a show for you Sunday, come hell or high water. I'll still be in Las Vegas until Monday, but I'll find a way to do a show in Vegas if I need to Sunday night. Otherwise, Jim will be doing a show on Sunday night. Maybe it'll be both of us. Maybe it'll be just me. Maybe it'll be just him. We will have a show for you on Sunday night, but Friday, we're traveling Friday night. It's just not going to be possible. Jim's going to be still in Hawaii, and I'm going to be with my wife and my son and in a hotel room, and I just don't have the means to navigate it. Plus, I don't think I'm getting in until somewhere between 9 and 10 p.m. So just the timing on it isn't going to work. So my Cal Ripken streak will come to an end. I'm kidding. There's typically going to be a few shows that I miss over the course of a year. And there's usually a game or two that, for whatever reason, I'm traveling and Jim's traveling. We just, over the course of 6 months, unfortunately, it's impossible to be available for each and every wrap-up show, even though we try. And I do my damnedest to make sure that we're providing you guys the content, because I think Padres fans deserve it, clearly, based on the interest in this club. So we try to provide it because you guys deserve it. And there's a lot to talk about, win, lose, or anywhere in between. Over the course of a long year, there's a lot to talk about. So there will be a show Sunday. If anything breaks over Thursday or Friday, we'll make sure to bring you something, whenever that would be. But for the latest, please join me on John and Jim, because we're on YouTube as well. You can watch. We're talking Padres, near 4 hours a day from 2 to 6 p.m. So if you are supporting the wrap-up show, please support John and Jim on the radio, because without the day job, there probably isn't a night job. So really do appreciate those that tune in, listen, subscribe to that channel, listen on the app, listen on 760. It all adds up. It's all appreciated. And we wouldn't be able to do it without you guys supporting it. It's as simple as that. Like, we can't do it if you guys aren't there for us. So we appreciate you being there for us day in and day out. JD's third, thank you, man. He says, John, take weekend off. Mental health is important. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I agree with that. I can do this. I don't know what impact this has on my mental health. Doing the wrap-up show, I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this. This is why we do it as often as we do it and as long as we do it, because it's kind of like a fun part of the gig, and it's easy to do. It is taxing because we do it so often, but it's a fun part of the job. But I appreciate you saying that. It has nothing to do with mental health. It has more to do with availability, obviously. But yeah, there's going to be a lot to react to tomorrow. We'll talk more about it on the radio. And Kevin Acey will be with me at some point. If it's not tomorrow, he'll certainly be with me Friday, and I'll have some Padres guests, and we'll try to get someone in with the Pirates perspective as well. Again, Padres going to miss Paul Skeens for a fourth consecutive series. What are the odds of that they're going to miss Paul Skeens again? And another series that you need to take advantage of. There's no step back here. You cannot lose this series. You're not going to feel good if you're a Padres fan if they don't win this series. So I don't see, any other option right now. I know it's still late May, early June, but you got to go win this series because of what's to come. And hopefully they can do that beginning Friday night at Petco Park at 6:40. All right, guys. Well, appreciate you hanging out this Wednesday night. I wasn't sure how many people would be here live, because you know that oftentimes when there's a day game, we're not going to do a night wrap-up show because we talk about it during the day on John and Jim. But I really didn't have the opportunity to do that today because there was an SDFC match actually late afternoon, and they had some pregame programming. So I was only on for 2 hours today, and the Padres game was on. It was still on, I think, when I signed off around 3:55, or maybe the game ended actually like at 3:45 or 3:50. So we could only comment on it briefly. Typically, we have 2 or 3 hours to comment on those day games, and we do it. And that's why we bypass the wrap-up show. But we'll have full commentary on it tomorrow. But that's why I wanted to do the wrap-up show tonight. Plus, I said if we got to 8,500 subscribers, we'd have the wrap-up show. And with everyone's help, we got to 8,500 subscribers. So truly do appreciate that. And again, what would this channel be without each and every one of you each and every day? I mean, this channel would be nothing without each and every one of you guys each and every day. So truly grateful and appreciated. And we'll see you tomorrow on the radio at 2 p.m. And then the next wrap-up show will be on Sunday. So we're taking that Friday hiatus, and we'll have a wrap-up show for you. We'll recap the entirety of the Padres-Pirates series on Sunday, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of the season with the Giants and the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers and everything to come. It's going to be a really busy June, and we'll be here for you throughout the month of June, and of course throughout the second half of the season as well, each and every day on the wrap-up show. But appreciate you guys. Again, please support our partners, Mark Nimitz at Farmers Insurance, Hamul Casino, Mova Globes, SeatGeek, Underdog Fantasy. We can't do it without their support, just like we can't do it without your support. And join us tomorrow on San Diego Sports 760 at 2 p.m. All right. Padres fall to the Marlins. Appreciate each and every one of you. For Maui Jim, this is John, and this has been the wrap-up show. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.